What's up, everyone? It's Friday, which means it's time for the Schuh Show. That's Rob Schuh. I'm Grant Cohn. We're going to be talking Niners for the next hour 15. And then after our show, Rob's going to keep it going on his channel to keep the 49ers discussion going. If you haven't subscribed already, do so. If you're not watching after this show, do so, because I know you're not really doing it. You've done all your work for the week. You're chilling. You just went to your office just to show your face, say hello to your boss. I don't know. I never actually had an office job. I don't know what those type of people, but I'm glad you're watching us. Rob, how are you?
I'm fantastic. You're dead on about the corporate jobs. Fridays are spent telling people what you're going to do on the weekend. The productivity is low, my friend, very low.
Good. So yeah, let's spend it together.
That's
the 49ers have a big game in a couple of days in the sense that they're in a playoff race and it's December 17th today. So by definition, it's a big game. So we're going to break that. We're going to spend most of our time talking about that. And at the end, we're going to look ahead a little bit, just a little bit. But really in December, you don't look ahead. This is time to take every game very seriously. So let's do that. First things first, Rob.
Yes.
Can the 49ers get back to winning in their brand of football? Can they run over ATL like they ran over the Rams?
Can they get back to their identity? The last couple of weeks have left me with heart palpitations because we have relied too heavily on Jimmy Garoppolo and not leaned on that run game. I really want to get back to that against Atlanta. It sets up in a way that you would think the 49ers could run over this team. The Falcons are allowing 4.2 yards per carry, 117 per contest. The 49ers are averaging 4.3 yards per carry, 123.9 per contest. To me, this sets up for the 49ers to have success, but it's also reliant upon the health of Elijah Mitchell coming into this one.
That's the way I see it too. It's like what the Niners want to do is have a 2-to-1 run to pass ratio.
Yes.
That's ideal. And that's ambitious in the NFL.
It is.
Something more you can accomplish in college. And I don't see how they can do. I think the reason they haven't been able to do it the last couple of weeks is because they've only had one trusted running back healthy at a time. Basically, their trusted running backs are Wilson and Mitchell. And when they have both of them plus Debo, getting to 40 runs is pretty easy with Jimmy Garoppolo converting those third downs. So I don't know. We don't know about Mitchell yet, but if he doesn't play, I think no. They're going to have to go back to that 1-to-1 ratio that's been tougher for them.
What's your sense of that injury, right? I mean, by the way, in answer to the hoodie question, NFLshop.com, where all the good gear comes from, where all the expensive gear comes from, I should say. And so what is your sense of this injury? Because he came back into the game against Seattle, right? And then comes in Monday with a headache and gets entered into concussion protocol. But that's when the knee injury comes to light, right? Apparently there's something with the knee that's now listed on the injury report as well. Is it more about the knee than it is the concussion, or is he just stuck in concussion protocol at this point?
We have no idea. They won't tell us. We're in the dark there. But I think he hasn't practiced all week. We'll see if he practices today. And if he plays and he can get 15 carries, then the Niners can run over Atlanta. But I think they're going to have to find a different way to dominate Atlanta. And I think Jeff Wilson Jr. looked terrific. I think you can feel confident giving him 20 carries, but also like you don't want to wear him out for the playoffs too, because it looks like the Niners about 90% chance of being a wild card team. And I don't think there's much of a difference between the 5th seed and the 7th seed. So you just need Mitchell and Wilson healthy for that game, that playoff game. Yeah. If Mitchell isn't 100% healthy, no reason to rush him back for Atlanta. Win a different way. This is a great way to practice winning a different way. Because you should be able to beat Atlanta 8 different ways, right? 8 different ways.
You should. Good teams are supposed to beat bad teams on a regular basis. That's the way the NFL is supposed to work. It just hasn't this year so far. The parity has been off the charts. So it's my observation that Jeff Wilson Jr. is rounding back into form. What I saw this past week was better than weeks prior. Is that your observation as well, that he's got a little more pep in his step?
Yeah, I think he's got a little more juice back. I mean, his first few outings, he looked sluggish. He was averaging 2-something yards a carry. And then he had basically had a week off. And then he went up against a defense that was really does a good job against the run statistically and was loaded up to stop him. And he averaged more than 4 yards a carry. They were tough yards. He looked like the guy from last year, the guy who's got that burst between the tackles and gets yards after contact. I mean,
yeah, the guy who goes to a dark place, as George Kittle talks about.
A bigger, slower Mitchell. They're a very good compliment, I think. I was saying yesterday, I think Wilson might be even better. I like Mitchell. He has more juice, more acceleration, more speed to the outside. Sometimes it seems like he just runs into the back of his blockers, whereas Wilson was making some cuts in this game where, I don't know, I thought he was really, really has some terrific vision. Maybe it's experience. I don't know. But anyway.
That would be my gut instinct, would be experience, and that it's Elijah Mitchell just running a little bit ahead of his brain. Because in other instances, he seems to be the better natural fit for this system with his ability to get around the edge.
Paige says, talk about Javon Kinlaw and his future with the team. That's a good bonus question. I mean, that's a fair. We're in the dark here. They said that they're going to give him some cleanup surgery.
Yes.
And they're very confident. It's the same person who did Solomon Thomas's ACL surgery.
And Bosa's ACL.
And Bosa's ACL. So, and John Lynch went on the record saying, we got the solution, right? We figured it out. We figured it out, and this is going to be okay. So the Niners are saying some pretty confident, bold words here. Let's see.
Yeah, the only question I would ask is what else do we expect him to say at this point in time, right? They're not going to come out and be like, well, really botched that one. Looks like he's done for next year too. So I think it's optimism, and I'm going to stay optimistic about it, but I'm not going to get too far ahead of it. I'm not going to get out in front of my skis on this one.
Steven Saunders says Niners need to draft Zach Charbonnet, running back, UCLA. Look, I don't know when he's going to go, and I don't think the Niners should draft a running back high, but all I know is I watched little UCLA. I went there and I took my wife to see UCLA play Stanford at Stanford, and that's the first time I ever saw this guy. And we were laughing the whole game. Like, it's a combination of like Chardonnay and Cabernet. It's a combination of Chardonnay and Cabernet. It's a great Someone should make a Chardonnay in wine country. I would buy that.
I'm sure. I'm sure it would fly off the shelves.
The Chardonnay. So yeah, he went to Michigan, transferred out apparently.
I agree wholeheartedly that the Niners should not be drafting a running back early. They've got bigger holes to fill.
But if his name is something cool like Charbonnet, I don't know.
Then maybe.
You were awesome. Where are you from? I'd love to know more about what makes you love football. Do you think this is like a bot that gives $5 out just to nice people?
I mean, if it is, take that $5 and run.
Y'all are awesome. Where are you from? I'm from Oakland. He's from Palo Alto. Right?
I am from Palo Alto. Born on the East Coast, but lived in Palo Alto most of my life. That's where I became a 49er fan. And I love football because I started going to Candlestick Park and watching Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and Ronnie Lott. And who couldn't fall in love with that package?
I love football because the first year I started watching the 49ers, they won the Super Bowl. And I felt like, man, this is a lot of fun. I should watch this team all the time.
This is easy.
And then they didn't win it ever again. And I was like, wait a second. The first season of this show was terrific, and I'm like 30 seasons in, and I'm still waiting for the next. What the hell? You hooked me when I was 5, and then I just thought that was going to be the expectation every year. I didn't understand.
You got that first taste, and it was good. Everything else was bad.
I got to meet Steve Young like 6 months later. I mean, it was all. I don't know. I felt like I was involved somehow. And now I am involved, but as a troll. I'm sorry.
You peaked early, Grant. You peaked early.
Jimmy and the Shark. We're turning the Niners defense into characters from, Goodfellas. Yeah. Jimmy and the Shark taking care of business on the back end. What are you seeing from them?
This sets up to me to be, in my opinion, and I'm interested to know if you see any other key matchups along the defense, but this sets up to me to be the two key matchups for the 49ers. Jimmy Ward blanketing the tight end. I'm assuming that'll be Kyle Pitts for the vast majority of the game, but certainly they've brought back Hayden Hurst, so you could see that coverage as well. And then Russell Gage. So when I look at the two outside threats for Atlanta, it's primarily Pitts and Gage. Pitts is by far leading the team in yards. And then Russell Gage, not too far behind him. But as I learned doing an insider program on my channel with the gentleman from Locked On Falcons, he indicated that the gentleman Russell Gage operates primarily out of the slot. So I assume that he would be out wide. So I'm thinking that's going to be K'Wan Williams most of the day. And it makes me feel a little bit better because I started to think, oh no, we were able to cover up for a thin secondary last week against the Bengals and a three-headed monster. There's just no way we'll be able to do it 2 weeks in a row. But when I look at how it sets up, how Atlanta will look to attack the 49ers, it becomes more of a strength against strength as opposed to strength on weakness. So it makes me a little more optimistic about those two being able to handle those assignments. I mean, what's your opinion on Jimmy Ward being able to lock down any tight end in the league?
Well, he's the best at it. And I think it's so interesting. Last week, you were looking at the matchup. Again, I picked the Bengals. I felt dumb for that. They weren't ready. They weren't ready. I mean, that's a young team. But the talent was seductive. It was a really talented team. You're looking,
and in fairness, you came pretty close to getting it right.
Yeah, I mean, like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, like they have first-round talent, like premium talent, right where the Niners are weak.
Yes.
This team doesn't. All their talent is right where the Niners are strong, right up the middle. So, I mean, no, it's a great matchup for the 49ers. Russell Gage on K'Wan, advantage Niners.
Yes.
Kyle Pitts on Jimmy Ward. I'm not going to say advantage Niners, but, I mean, it's at least a good matchup.
Yeah, it neutralizes it to some extent, right? He's not going to be held catchless, but I think Jimmy's probably going to hold him. I think he's probably going to hold him under 50 yards because that seems to be his bragging rights on Instagram where he gets on there and starts going in his stories.
Interesting. Man, yeah, I can see that. The thing with Kyle Pitts is that he's 6'6" with the longest arms ever. So even if Jimmy Ward is right in his hip pocket, which he will be, Pitts can make some crazy catches. So we'll see if Pitts makes some of those.
Yes. It surprises me that with that wingspan, he's not more dominant in the red zone, that they haven't really figured out how to use him as a red zone target. Only one touchdown on the year so far. Do you think that these matchups set up such that the 49ers can play a primarily single high safety look and really focus the majority of their energy on Cordarrelle Patterson? Because he is, much like Deebo Samuel, 30 to 35% of Atlanta's offense, whether running or catching the ball. And if they can handle those other two stars with just two defenders, now you're talking about the rest of the defense being able to focus on Cordarrelle.
I'm with you. I mean, I really think that the Falcons are basically screwed. Like, they can't beat the Niners. The Niners can beat themselves, but the Niners are strong where the Falcons are strong. The matchups, the Falcons can't threaten any of the Niners' weaknesses, and all their guys, the Niners have the matchup advantage on. Really, I mean, the best one is Pitts, and the Niners have Jimmy Ward for him. So this is
best on best.
Look, it was just a few weeks ago that the Falcons lost 25-0 to the Patriots, to nothing. So the fact that this team is 6-7, that's kind of amazing. Like it's not a good team. It's not a good team.
It's not a good team, but it's a team that's trending in the right direction. That's what concerns me, right? Okay. You have Atlanta who, like, their playoff chances getting into the playoffs hinge on this game against San Francisco. That they come in needing to win this game if they have any chance of making it, and they've been trending in the right direction the last couple of weeks. It leaves me a little trepidatious to say that the 49ers will walk all over them, but I agree. If the 49ers are who we want them to be, they will.
They should. I mean, look, if Atlanta had Calvin Ridley, I'd say, okay, hold on, wait a second. That's a serious. They got Calvin Ridley. They can put him on whoever that number 2 cornerback is, but they don't. They freaking don't. And look, I don't even know who Russell Gage is. I couldn't tell you what number he wears.
Yeah, and on the other side is Tajay Sharp. The only thing I can say about Tajay Sharp is he's about the same height as T. Higgins, so I don't know if he'll have some success against our cornerbacks in that regard.
Jeez, man, that's their starter.
Whew. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the Niners definitely are off the hook this week. Definitely off the hook. Dante Johnson, take another week. Ambry Thomas, whoever, Diamador, go learn because you'll be okay. I mean, it's like playing I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel far off of playing the Lions. I know they have way different records, but really, I mean, what are you working with here? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
the biggest difference would definitely be Matt Ryan versus Jared Goff. Although if we consulted your father, he might place Matt Ryan right there with Jared Goff. He is not a fan.
He will not back off that stance.
No.
Loser.
He's doubling down. I love it.
James Perez says group sponsored therapy by Tart. I like Jaquaski Tart, by the way. He was just giving me a hard time. He's a good guy. We're cool. I'm cool with Jaquaski. No problem with Jaquaski.
Squash.
I think that was just his way of giving me a hard time. I don't think he was actually trying to take a shot at me. Because I give him a hard time, right? It's kind of like the nature of it. So it's all good. It was fraternal ribbing. I take it in a good spirit. Jaquaski,
as you should.
I do. I seriously do. Okay. Kittles and Pitts. A matchup of two tight ends who could have been teammates.
Could have
been teammates. We argued that they should have been teammates. What are you seeing from this matchup?
Yeah, I felt like we had to hit it after my slightly farcical argument for Kyle Pitts at 3, right? The logical argument for Kyle Pitts at 3. It would have been special to have him on the team. I didn't think that was actually going to happen. I certainly predicted Trey Lance would have been the pick if it were up to me as well. But going into it, it was fun to play around with that. Kyle playing 4D chess, bringing him in. So it seemed like a good time to revisit the production of the two and ask who's having the more impressive season. So in comparison, Kittle playing 10 games, 57 receptions on 76 targets for 757 yards with a 13-yard average and 6 touchdowns. Pitts, 54 receptions on 88 targets, so a few less receptions on more targets, about the same yardage, 770, 14-yard average per catch, only 1 touchdown. So looking at the two as a direct comparison, obviously I would say that George Kittle's is more impressive because this year seems to be the year that George Kittle figured out how to consistently get in the end zone. But the idea that this is Pitt's rookie season, I mean, it took George Kittle until now to really determine how to be a red zone threat, to really figure out how to get, or took Kyle Shanahan this long to figure out how to get him in the end zone.
There you go. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
It doesn't. I guess I don't hold it against Pitts for being a rookie and being unable to contribute in that way, or Atlanta being unable to utilize him in that way. I got to say, for a rookie season, it's pretty damn impressive on a subpar team.
It is really impressive. And look, I don't want to take anything away from Kittle, though, because we've always kind of knocked him for not scoring. I've knocked him for not scoring touchdowns. If you look for ways to knock Kittle, that's the only way you can do it. And I look for ways. And this year he's coming through. But I really look at it as Shanahan never gave him the opportunity. Like the first few years of his career, when he would get targets in the red zone, it wasn't in the end zone. It was in front, and he had to like barrel his way in. And it's almost like Kyle, his attitude was, yeah, you're good after the catch, but I don't trust your hands. I don't trust your hand-eye coordination, and I don't trust you to catch passes away from your frame in tight windows. So I'm throwing in Kendrick Bourne. Seriously. Yeah. And now, like, he's the guy you go to. I mean, he makes crazy catches, one-handed catches. I mean, crazy, right? I mean, it doesn't matter where you put the ball, he catches the ball. So he's earned the trust of Kyle. You could probably argue that it's a few years late. I mean, come on. Yes. It's like in the back of Kyle's mind, he still looks at him as that 5th round pick that maybe Kyle created.
What is it about Kyle and being slow to recognize talent? It's like, well, you got to prove it. Well, no, you got to prove it a second time. No, really, I'm going to need you to prove it 3 more times, and then I'll believe you.
I think Kyle really feels like he creates most of these people, and that he can create more, and that like a lot of the success is on him. So Jimmy wins.
It's schematic success.
It's on me. Yeah, Jimmy had good game. That's on me. George had a good game. That's on me. These guys are still so limited. He's so limited. And I'm working around his limitations. And Kyle's just a little negative. He even says he says that. Like he checks out new houses and he just his wife is crying. He's like, no, but I liked it. It's a go. I can work with that. But now I know all the freaking problems with it, and I can work with that. That's just kind of his style.
It's interesting. It's a commonality amongst perfectionists that if one thing is off, then the entire thing is imperfect and therefore trash. Yeah. And I think that carries through. I also attribute it to his old school personality, old school football, like his father, that rookies really need to prove it. They really have to earn their way in, and that it takes a little bit of time to establish yourself. Whereas the new football acumen, the new school of thought is get them in there, let them make their mistakes, let them learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at Kyle Pitts in here. I think he has not many targets in the red zone. I don't think it's his fault. I think they need to throw him the ball more. I think he has 9 targets, 2 catches. So maybe it's on him too.
With
that's
with
not a good
that
ratio.
wingspan, that's crazy.
Yeah, they got to figure that out. Niners Run This says, I've had Gage on my fantasy for 2 years straight. 2 years straight. Trust me, he is trash. The funny thing about this is that you've had him on your fantasy team for 2 years straight and you feel this way. That's why I put this up there. Hilarious.
Yeah, that is that's a long time to have somebody who contributes very few points on your roster.
Why are you so loyal to him? All right. So we're more ways to look at this matchup. Atlanta's lack of a pass rush.
Yeah, the Falcons really have struggled to bring pressure on opposing teams. So this seems to set up as another game where the 49ers could lean on that pass game for more than makes most of us comfortable. It sets up that way because of the fact that they are last in the league, dead last in sacks per game at 1.2. They have Dante Fowler with 4.5 sacks. That's their sack leader on the team. Nobody else has more than 2 sacks. Dante Fowler has 4.5. Nobody else has more than 2. There really isn't a pass rush there. If you compare it to San Francisco's, they're 9th in the league, averaging 2.5 sacks per game. So more than double the production from San Francisco's defensive line.
Fowler hasn't even practiced this week. He's got a calf injury.
Yeah, so their best pass rusher is limited. Yep. And beyond that, they've got very little. I mean, it sets up for Jimmy to have all day sitting back there in the park looking around, trying to find who he wants to throw the ball to.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is, I mean, I was there in Cincinnati. Not that makes my perception any better, but the way I felt is that when he had a clean pocket, he was great.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really good. He was making throws down the field. He was getting to third reads. I mean, his touchdown pass to Kittle, he went right, middle, left, found Kittle late. I mean, it was really nice. But when there was a little bit of pressure on him, all of a sudden he was like tucking the ball with both hands and trying to run forward and get yards. It was like, whoa, man, you're not. So to me, yeah, he's still a little in like, game manager, protect yourself mode when there's pressure, which is fine.
Yeah.
But when there's not, man, he looks like a hell of a quarterback right now. So looks like that's probably what it's going to look like this week.
I would think so. Yeah. I'm going to keep my eye on Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle coming in. I mean, he is definitely a good player. Not
you put him on Daniel Brunskill. I'm sorry.
Right. Not a pass rusher, necessarily, but in this instance where you have a weaker interior line for San Francisco and you have Grady Jarrett as probably grading out as the best defensive lineman for Atlanta, that at least sets up to be the most interesting matchup because San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo in particular, does not deal well with that interior pressure. When it comes at him directly in his face, that blocks out where he wants to go with the ball, which is the middle of the field.
Yeah, 2-3 years ago, Grady Jarrett was a really good pass rusher in the middle. Now he has 1 sack this year. I haven't been watching him much. But yeah, if it's coming from anywhere, it's coming from him. And if it's going to be coming from anywhere, it's going to be coming from the right because Lincoln Tomlinson's a good player. Daniel Brunskill is I couldn't call him good. So yeah,
right.
Something to watch for. Yep.
Yeah, good in run blocking schemes, good at pulling, not a great pass blocker.
So that definitely everything seems to bode well for the 49ers this week. So do you think they're capable of dominating this game? What's your prediction?
They should be. I mean, this sets up for the 49ers to absolutely win this. That it is the 49ers. This is the kind of game that in 2019 they would have. They would have steamrolled this team. And this is what good teams do to bad teams. To me, this is a chance for a statement game, a different type of statement game. Not the statement game that says you can beat elite talent within the NFL, but a statement game that says you're not going to play down to your opponent. You're not going to lower your level of competition when playing an inferior team like Atlanta. You're going to raise up to the occasion, and you are going to absolutely steamroll them because your strengths play to their weaknesses. Mm-hmm. But I'll be honest, going into this one, I'm nervous about it. I'm nervous that the 49ers are coming back off of an East Coast game, and they have done horribly coming back off the East Coast. They tend to lose a lot of those games after the East Coast time zone games, which is just an odd phenomenon. They have the opportunity to overlook Atlanta. Atlanta seems to have a lot of revenge on their mind when they come to play San Francisco. They seem to remember a lot of things that cause them great pain, and it just sets up for another trap game. And the 49ers have been inconsistent this season. It's hard for me to believe going in wholeheartedly that they're going to steamroll Atlanta.
Okay, fair enough. You laid out a good case. The way I see it, the Niners, a lot of people are very high on the 49ers right now.
Yes.
On Twitter, you can't criticize the Niners. It basically, we're celebrating the 49ers this week and talking about how they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But I don't think they've really played well the last 2 weeks. I mean, they didn't play well in Seattle. And then I don't think they played well in Cincinnati either. It's just that Cincinnati was way worse. Way worse.
Yeah.
But they were up 20-6 in the second half and almost gave the whole thing away. They scored 3 points in the second half. I mean, it almost was very bad. I don't think they played particularly well in that game. I'd like to see the 49ers just play well. It's not about Atlanta. I'd like to see the Niners play well for the first time in a few weeks. Everyone's celebrating this team, but really, I haven't seen them play really, really well since the Jaguars game. And I know they have it in them because they did it to the Rams. So what I'm predicting is that the 49ers know they're being harder on themselves than the fans are being hard on them. They're being harder on themselves than the media is being hard on them. And they're going to look at the last 2 games and say, that's not going to cut it. What we did against Cincinnati, what we did against Seattle. We want to go somewhere in the playoffs. We need to play way better starting right now. And I think they're going to win big. I've been thinking all weekend, they're going to come out and kind of fumble around, and Jimmy's going to throw a pick, and it's going to be close. Last 2 weeks, I've been doing with Jesse and Jason, and I said 27-24 Niners. I'm thinking, screw that. This is the week that the Niners actually play a good game and get back to how they put teams away in that winning streak. And I think they're going to win 31-10, like they did against the Rams and like they did against the Jaguars. 31-10, a big, big freaking win, because you know what? Atlanta sucks. Atlanta sucks. Matt Ryan doesn't suck, but Atlanta sucks. I mean, their offense is ranked like 25th or something. Their defense is ranked 27th or so. They freaking suck. And the Niners are really talented. I mean, just the fact that they have the trio of Kittle, Debo, and Ayuk. Who has a trio like that? Who? I mean, really, they should have the number 1 offense in the league if they weren't limited by certain factors like their offensive line, their quarterback. But still, they're a really good team. I don't know. They're a really talented team. I'm putting it that way.
That's a key differentiator.
Yeah.
It is, because
they're not a really good team, but they're a really talented team. Handle this 31-10.
There is something that caused the 49ers offense to stagnate in both of the last 2 weeks in the second half, right? It fell off a cliff in Seattle. You know, I do think that it's a bit of a mental hurdle for them. And I'm glad that Trey didn't get any snaps, because the next time he comes in against Seattle in Seattle, he'll just get to start fresh. And that's a good thing, because I don't want him to be a part of a losing effort to that team and the little brother, big brother syndrome that goes on with Seattle. But against the Bengals, they came out and coughed the ball up to us several times, allowed us to jump out to that lead, and then we were unable to really capitalize and put the game away. And so, yes, we have a very talented team. You pointed out that trio, and we can't seem to feed that trio consistently in any single game. We can feed them one at a time. We're like, sorry, kids, we don't have enough money to get you all dinner. We'll get each one of you dinner one night a week. And that's not a sustainable way to go forward. That's not a way to win in the playoffs. When you have George Kittle, when you have Debo Samuel, when you have Brandon Ayuk, you need to have some games where all of them have production, where all of them get fed.
This game.
This is
freaking
it.
game. 31
Put it all
points.
together.
Come on, it's not that hard. Let those guys enable them. All you do is enable them.
Atlanta's starting safety is out. It sets up perfectly for them to torch them. They can't get any pass rush. This is a game where the 49ers can show people who they are. Much like beating a good team is a statement game, beating a lesser team handily, that makes a statement as well. Yes.
This is a team that should be thinking, like, by halftime, they should be like, all right, can we fire up the plane? Like, we're done. They should make them quit 31-10, just like you did to Jacksonville. Atlanta sucks. Our first-year coach, I mean, they have no pressure to win right now. 6-7, I mean, this is not a serious team. The fact that they're 6-7, they've beaten 0 teams with winning records. Don't be the first team with the winning record that loses to them, because it won't be them beating you. It'll be you beating you.
Yes.
And I'm frankly concerned because you beat yourself in Seattle and you were so freaking close to beating yourself in Seattle. So close. And Cincinnati was like, no. We want to beat ourselves. Like our game plan this week is to fumble 7 times. And Niners like, wait, hold on. We're going to throw a pick with the game on. Wait a second. And Jesse Bates is like, no, we're going to drop it. It was great. NFL football is sloppy, man. I swear. They need more practice time, but that's a different discussion for another day.
They do, and that is a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
If you allow Atlanta into this game, they're going to start having dreams of winning out the season. Sure. They're going to start having dreams of the playoffs being a legitimate goal for them. If you allow them in at halftime, I tell you what, it's going to be a close nail biter, and the 49er faithful do not want to see that. You got to get up early on them and, like you said, extinguish their hopes. Truly get after them and make them know that they are playing against better competition. It's just that I have my doubts about the 49ers being able to start quick like that. I tend to stick with thinking this one is closer than it should be.
Here's what's scary about this game. Matt Ryan's 4-2 in his career against the Niners, as Barry Baller pointed out. He's not Stafford, who Stafford he's never had any success. He's a good player, but he doesn't have like this, like, I know I can beat this team.
Right.
He's not like that. Like this, Russell Wilson's like that. So when you go to play Seattle, it's like, well, damn. I mean, why is he expecting to lose? He's expecting to win because he always does. And Matt Ryan, I mean, you let him hang around. What happened the last time the Niners played Matt Ryan at home? They were better than now, and they lost.
Yep.
So
and it didn't look like they were going to lose until it was over and they had lost. It was like, oh, we got this. We got this. Wait a minute. Wait, we just lost?
How did that freaking happen? And I mean, Matt Ryan, my dad is not a big fan, but he's at least as good as Joe Burrow and more experienced and has one more game. So don't let them hang around. Put them out of their misery. It should be 31-10. And, when I predict stuff like that, I feel like I jinx them because I don't know. I'm usually wrong, and maybe they need me to doubt them. Or I don't want to. It's not about me.
Well, they like to prove you wrong, Grant. So even when you predict a big victory, they're like, no, we'll prove Grant wrong. We'll make this one close.
This one's going to be tough. You're way. Atlanta's actually really good. No, they're not. They suck. Okay, let's answer some questions. Sean says, recreate the pick and the stick this game. This game could end the Falcons season and Matt Ryan into retirement end of season. We should score 40 plus. Oh, yeah, Kyle, put your boy into retirement. 40 plus. I like that. 40 plus. How about that? 40-10.
The key word there is should. The 49ers should win in that decisive fashion. And if they don't, it will be a condemnation of their ability towards the end of this year. If you can't beat out the Falcons handily, what are you going to do up against a Tampa Bay, a Green Bay?
That's what kills me. Like, everyone's really praising the Niners right now. And it's like, I'm watching a team that didn't play well the last 2 weeks. Let's see them take care of Atlanta first. Because if they lose to Atlanta, the conversation is a whole lot different.
Yes.
Right? Like, let's just see them play well. They won last week because Cincinnati played worse. Let's see the Niners play well. I know they have it in them. We've seen them do it. They do. They have it in them. Do it. Can we see that first and not pretend like Cincinnati didn't just totally cough up that game in 8 different ways? Where is Jalen Moore? Played well, mostly, in my opinion. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Tom Compton is really doing a good job of run blocking, but his pass protection is he's like a hologram.
It's brutal. But it was glorious to watch him running out in front of Deebo Samuel on that touchdown run. I mean, that's glorious. You got to give him his praise for that. Tom Compton earned a compliment in that regard.
Tom Compton's better than Mike McGlinchey. That's true.
Bold statement.
The Niners were 3-5 with Mike McGlinchey. And since he went down, they've lost one game. One game.
Are you attributing the change in the 49ers' fates to Tom Compton?
Yes, I just unveiled a new stat. It's called right tackle wins.
Yeah,
the right tackle win loss.
It's a direct correlation.
It's new. All I'm saying is, people. There's a contingent of people that think I'm too hard on Mike McGlinchey, and he somehow is like.
I'm in that contingent.
Somehow he's actually creates a positive impact for the 49ers. Well, Well, it hasn't reflected on the win-loss record. They've been just fine without him so far. So we'll see. Maybe it'll pop up later down the line.
His best attributes is being the CEO in the room, Grant, and he's still around, so he's still bringing that to the table.
You don't know about Tom Compton's inner CEO. Tom Compton. He was verbal. Kent, the whole time. We were saying, verbal, you're not smart enough. They're taking advantage of you, verbal. He's like, no, this is Usual Suspects we're talking here. Usual Suspects. He was saying,
I'm Kaiser.
If you haven't seen it, it was verbal the whole time. It was Kevin Spacey who did it.
Just spoiled one of the greatest spoilers in cinematic history.
Sorry. William Bennett says my two guys together. YouTube is gonna demonetize me for that. They're like, excuse me? You can't just be giving spoilers to movies that came out in 1994.
The Usual Suspects? I'm sorry.
Excuse me? No. My two guys together. Remember, as always, Rob, sweep the leg. This is a trap game. The game is on Jimmy. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, usually games in mid-December and on are on the quarterback, and the Niners are coming in with I don't think they're in the same tier. I just don't. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, that's in reference to Silverado Kev was on the channel, and he was talking about against Seattle, sweeping the leg. You got to, if you smell that weakness, if you find that opportunity to take advantage of the team, you got to sweep the leg. You got to put them out of their misery. We couldn't do it against Seattle. Can we do it against an inferior Atlanta team?
Vikrant S says, good opt to give Lance a player to the rest of the season. Just to put this in postseason opponents' minds, they should do that. Week 18, I still think week 18 that they rest their starters. It would be a smart move, and they could give them an entire game.
You think that they'll be locked into their playoff seeding at that point?
Not their seeding, but I think they'll be locked into a wild. I think there's like an 80% chance they'll be locked into a wild card spot. If they're not, you got to play your starters. 100%. But if it's like, we could be the 5th or the 6th, or we could be the 6th or the 7th seed, who cares? The difference is playing Green Bay or Tampa, or Arizona. To me, it's like, rest your starters. Make sure you're ready for whichever team you get, because it's not going to be easy. Yeah.
My only stance would be if you can shorten your travel in the playoffs by grabbing a particular seed, I'd do it. But resting your starters also adds an advantage.
That's a good point. I actually hadn't done it. If the Niners lost no matter what, start Trey. Yeah. Falcons +9, lock of the week.
Sadly, I don't think Shanahan, he'll just cling tighter to Jimmy G. Any loss that happens this season, he will cling tighter, because then every game after that becomes that much more clutch in getting into the playoffs. The Niners could realistically go 1-3. There's a scenario where they go 1-3 and still get that 7th seed. Much more likely if they go 2-2 or 3-1. But because of that, it lends itself toward playing Jimmy G, because clearly Shanahan believes he gives him the best opportunity to win, whether he's right about that or not.
They better not go 1-3. My goodness. Better not. All right, let's talk about the maturation of Kyle Shanahan, the alleged maturation.
Alleged maturation of Kyle Shanahan. This one, I'm interested to get your take, because this was sparked by your father's tweet Monday morning after the Bengals victory. So this is what was tweeted by Lowell Cohn. This is in praise of Kyle Shanahan. Looking at him from afar, it seems to me he always has the same demeanor with the media, win or lose. Kind of stoic, terse, honest, unemotional. That is a leadership quality. First of all, can we just take a moment to applaud well-worded tweets?
He's the best. He does not mess around. Yeah.
Because so many people just like, I think it's a half-witted thought and throw it out there, right? Twitter is filled with those. You are my
I can't
favorite.
Even spell right anymore.
Someone described you as being like an AI generator of random 49ers tweets, and that was the best description.
Yeah, that was right.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
No, it's just
like
you throw out ideas.
That one episode, but it's just to piss off Niner fans. Remember that?
So to me, this was a question of whether this was always the case, because I see it a little bit differently. I agree with the observation of current Shanahan. I agree that he comes across in the way that your father describes here. But I see this as a process that has been occurring. Because if I look back at the beginning of the year, I do not see a stoic individual. I saw someone who seemed to be on the edge, someone who was losing it a bit.
Game in the rain?
Yeah.
He had a crazy look in his eye, Rob.
The crazy eyes.
Crazy look in his eye. I thought he was going to come get me in the first row. I'm just kidding. He had a crazy look in his eyes, though.
Yeah. I snapped a picture of that
Is
and
that from
tweeted
Step
it
Brothers?
out.
He had a crazy. He told me, "Let's get it on." Is that from Step Brothers? You know what I meant.
Let's get it on. Yeah. So to me, what I want, I mean, you are closer, right? There's a hell of a difference between watching someone on the screen like we're doing right now and being there in person and seeing 3D facial expressions and getting a truer sense of body language and things like that. So if you can describe for me, well, first of all, do you agree with his current state, the way in which your father describes it right now? And do you agree that it has always been that way? Or do you agree with both of those points?
I disagree with my dad. My dad, look, he has a very good judge of character, but he's never asked Kyle Shanahan a question.
Right.
And Kyle Shanahan is the same most of the time, but it's understood that he will snap at you pretty much if you ask him a question that's like, why did you do something that you did that was wrong? If you ask a question like that, he will snap at you. He won't be like, hey, that's a good question. And he won't do like what John Lynch would do or Robert Saleh would do. It's like, hey, if that's fair, it's on me. I'll take responsibility. His basic attitude is, who the hell do you think you are questioning me? And I'm the one guy in the beat troop, the one guy, but I do it a lot. When they lose a game, I'm the first one to be like, yo, you lost. Like, okay, let's talk about that. And he basically threw Steve Kerr's the same way. Steve Kerr, if you ask him a question, he'll like turn his nose up to you and like, okay, who's next? And he just gives positive reinforcement to questions that are not accusatory like that. So that's what Kyle does. He gives a lot of positive reinforcement to softball questions. And once he loses a game and you ask him why did you do something wrong? He's like, who else has got the softball question? Like so I mean, yeah, he's to say he always is like that, but you call that in baseball, there's a term for that. It's called the red ass. He gets the red ass, which doesn't mean he's a jerk, doesn't mean he's an asshole. It just means he gets a little irritated.
Perturbed.
I mean, a lot of us do, right? A lot of us, they say you don't suffer fools, like those kind of. He's like that, so he's the same in that sense.
So is your belief then that what we're seeing right now in the past couple of weeks is more a function of the 49ers having won most games?
When I was in Seattle and they lost at the buzzer, and I asked Kyle Shanahan, like, well, why do you think your team wasn't prepared? He was like ready to rip my head off. I said, what do you mean we weren't prepared? Sometimes teams just make mistakes. Sometimes teams just lose. Yeah, you lost like that to this team. Yeah, okay, sure. So, because if you say you're unprepared, then that's your fault as the head coach.
Right.
Your job is you had all week to prepare this team to play this awful team in Seattle, and you didn't do it. So, he's all good until you take it there after a loss. But that's okay. That's okay.
That makes sense. My hope is that we continue to see this because it seems like the area that if Shanahan can improve, he finally becomes the head coach that we all want him to be. If he can improve in the leadership area, minus the time management, which unless he brings somebody in to actually focus on that during games, I just don't know if that's ever going to be a strength for him. But as far as being a leader of men and having greater leadership qualities as a head coach, that still feels like an area he could grow in and could mature into the head coach that we want him to be. And my ultimate fear is that he doesn't while with the 49ers, but does while with his next coaching assignment. And so my hope is that we're seeing trends of it right now and that your father's observation is correct, that he is that gentleman now, but wasn't earlier in the season. And it was the pain that he suffered through in this year that brought about the change.
I think what my dad is saying is that his consistency, win or lose, he's the same guy. And that's true. Like win or lose, he is the same guy. If you asked him after a win, well, why'd you do this one thing that didn't work out? He'll be like, what do you, same attitude. So he is the same guy, win or lose. But my thing is, and that is leadership, but his not refusal, but his refusal to really take accountability for things that go wrong is not leadership. And it trickles down. It trickles down. I mean, anyone on the team who's good can say, I did my job today. It's not on me. And it's just, leadership is someone saying, I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen again. So that's the only thing I would say. That would be the next step. Let's call it that. The next step, accountability.
The next step. That's what needs to happen.
Antonio says Falcons will be tough, playing for playoff hopes. Niners need to run the ball no matter who they play. Controlling the clock is key against the quarterbacks like Brady in the playoffs. Good point, Antonio. Can't take Matt Ryan lightly.
No, you can't. And you have to continue to establish your identity over and over and over again, regardless of what opposing defenses attempt to do to you. You have to be able to instill your brand of football on other teams if you're going to make any sort of a run in the postseason. You're going to need to run against impressive defensive lines like the interior of Green Bay or like the entire defensive line of Tampa Bay. You're going to have to run against defenses that can stop the run in order to control that time of clock. We are not the type of team that can go into the playoffs thinking we're going to throw the ball 45 times a game to knock down a couple of wins.
Okay. This is what happens on Twitter. I say something snarky about the Niners. Niner fan says, why can't you just enjoy this playoff run? I say, do you think this team's going to win the Super Bowl? And they say, why does it matter? And I think it's an interesting question. They're like, do you have to win a Super Bowl for a season to be a success? It's a good question. The way I saw it heading into the season was that this was a Super Bowl or bust season. The Niners were all in. So I've seen people be like, how do you feel? Like, what's the evidence to that? Okay, well, that's fair. Let me lay it out. To me, the reason I think this is a Super Bowl or bust season, I'd like to hear what you think is, well, first of all, they traded away 2 future firsts. They don't have a first-round pick next year or the year after that. And I know they spent it on a project or whatever, but they spent future assets. They're gone. That's one. Consolidated for an asset that's on the team now. 2, they made Trent Williams, who's as old as I am, the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. 3, they made Fred Warner the highest paid middle linebacker in the league. I mean, these are the moves of a team that's in it to win right now. It's not like the Bengals, who have a bunch of young guys on rookie deals that are playing for the next year or the year after that. This is the second oldest team in the league or up there. And they already had George Kittle as they have a lot of guys as the highest paid in at their position. So to me, if they make it the playoffs, if they win a game or 2, even if they make it to the NFC Championship game and lose, to me, it doesn't necessarily lead to a brighter future. This is the end of the previous Super Bowl window. And the fact that they thought they could extend it this far is, I think, the whole issue at play here. I mean, is this the beginning of the next Super Bowl window, or if it's not, isn't it Super Bowl or bust?
That's an interesting take. First, I'll start with this whole idea of it's championship or bust, or a season is a lost cause. That's a new phenomenon and not one that I'm comfortable with as an old school guy. I'm with Charles Barkley that it could have been pretty easy for him to leave the teams he was on, go to form a super team and win a championship. The fact that he never,
like a true Trailblazers fan. I'm so sorry.
Yes. The idea that not winning a championship somehow negates Charles Barkley's career? Get the hell out of here, man. Charles Barkley was a hell of a player,
I didn't say
right?
anything about Charles Barkley.
Right? I'm not. This wasn't you. This was the figurative you.
I like Charles.
But the Bills of the 90s, you're going to tell me that going to and losing the Super Bowl 4 times in a row had no meaning for that fan base, had no meaning for those players, had no meaning for their Hall of Fame career trajectories? There are things to be taken from a season that doesn't end in championship. I see you want to say something there. You want to take a shot at the Bills? Go ahead. I don't defend them.
That's the Bills. These are the 49ers.
Right.
This is the one so
let's go back. Let's go back to 2019. 2019 to me was a magical season, and the fact that they couldn't finish it out is very painful, but it does not take away from my belief that 2019 was special, and it will go down in history as a very, very treasured memory for me personally as a Niner faithful.
Well, I'm not a Niner faithful. I used to be when I was back in the 90s, but I'm not anymore. I guess to me, I always feel like the best franchises have Super Bowl in mind. If not this year, in the future. And there's a plan.
That I agree with.
The worst franchises or the mediocre franchises are the ones that are like, you know what? Super Bowls are hard. And it's kind of, there's a lot of luck involved. So why don't we just aim for good and give ourselves a chance? And you see that in every sport. And that's what they're doing up in Portland. I'm so sorry to do that again.
No, it's true. But this year, finally, it looks like they're going to make a swing for the fences, right? With the new interim GM, not to get off on a random topic. But that is what good franchises need to do. I agree with you on that point. The goal has to be Super Bowl or bust. But if you do not make the Super Bowl, it does not negate the rest of the accomplishments from that season, would be my premise there. I think, to me, the colossal failure from the 49ers was splitting their allegiances. I agree. They made moves to try and be a Super Bowl team this year. I feel like the extension of Fred Warner and Trent Williams and George Kittle, all three of those needed to happen as continuing business. And they made some moves that were for the future, right? The Trey Lance pick did not help a Super Bowl trajectory this year, nor did their second round pick, nor did their third.
I mean, it doesn't help their future to spend that amount, to spend 3 picks on one player. I mean, they have no first round pick the next 2 years.
It's not does if it works out. If it doesn't, correct. It is a complete and colossal failure. But if the 49ers were to win a Super Bowl in 2022 or 2023, all of those draft picks would be well worth the cost of doing business. No question about it in my book. It is hard to win a Super Bowl. You get one, that's enough to write off a lot of bad decisions.
But the picks are gone. The picks are gone. It's like, that's all I'm saying is, like, it's all down to one player. They don't have future resources coming in, which makes it feel like you didn't necessarily help your next window. It's just weird to me. When they made the trade, it seemed like they were signaling, all right, enough with that team, enough with the revenge tour. It's over. We're going to start a new Super Bowl window with Trey. And then all of a sudden they're like, no. We're not going to do that, because actually the Super Bowl window is still open. It's still open. We're a Super Bowl team with Jimmy Garoppolo, and we owe it to ourselves to see this through. Well, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs probably and give themselves a chance. But to me, anything short of going to the Super Bowl and competing in that game was like, well, okay, you gave it a shot one more time. That Super Bowl window is closed now, and now you got to work on the next one. And you haven't even opened it up a nudge yet, because you don't know what that quarterback is. In fact, if you go real far this year, you might bring back Jimmy Garoppolo again. And again, it's like, great, man, and you got a good team, but you're aiming for great. Where is great? Is it next year? Is it this year? Is it next year? Is it the year after that? As long as there was a coherent plan, I would be like, great. So, playoffs are great.
That's my contention, is that the plan was shot from the outset. My belief is that they made both of the statements you just laid out. They made the statement that they were going to compete this year and building for the future, and that's just illogical. The splitting of, we'll just bring back a bunch of players on one-year deals, but we're going to invest a bunch of picks into a first-rounder, a second-rounder, and a third-rounder that won't contribute this year. That won't contribute at all this year because we don't need them, because we already got all these veterans. So it was the combination of believing both to be true that made neither true.
Agree. I love that. And what I would say is, you can say both are true, 49ers, but what's true is that you're all in right now. It's not about the future. You've put a ton of resources. Be honest. You put a ton of resources into this team at the expense of resources to the future. So make it. And plus, you said, vibes, 2019 vibes, bringing it back. 1994 jerseys. No, this is a Super Bowl team. We can't play our rookies yet. Fine. All right, then do it. You messed around in September and October. You've won 5 out of 7. Finish it off.
I see it as the opposite. I see it as the overwhelming actions screamed that they really were preparing for the future, and they were just selling a bill of goods to us that, we'll still compete for the Super Bowl this year. And the reality is that, no, they pinned all their hopes on the future with Trey Lance, and they are either right or wrong about that.
Then that just makes the season even more inexcusable.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a waste of time. But again, I'm not trying to poo-poo a playoff run. I'm just trying to say why I'm a little skeptical. Like, okay, I mean, before the season, you were saying we can't play the guy that we made this crazy investment for. We can't play him because we're going to win the Super Bowl with Jimmy. Actually, you're 7-6, and you're going to have to really, really do some amazing things in the playoffs. Was it worth it? And Niner fans are going to be like, yes. But think about this. I mean, it's a question that you're going to keep coming back to in the future. Does it feel worth it now? Yeah. Hell yeah. Because you've had 4 playoff runs since 2003. It's exciting. December football. But then ask yourself the question again next year. And the year after that, we'll come back to it. It's impossible to. We'll have to see though. Did it delay the start of the next window? My contention is that it might.
Yes.
Is that it might. We'll see though. Maybe
it did. They allocated resources this year that could have gone toward a future effort, and instead they attempted to stay relevant in 2021.
It worked out for Kansas City though, so we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know everything. I just know most things. Alex says, Grant, I think that fans' point could be that your questions are more appropriate after the season. We are in the moment. Let us enjoy this. When have I ever let you enjoy anything? Are you kidding?
Yeah. That's an unfair expectation for Grant.
Yeah, sorry. You want me to be someone else? All right, fine. I'll let you enjoy it today. Is there any way Mostert or Verrett make it back in the postseason? No. Sorry, Zach.
Both of those windows are officially closed, right?
They're not coming back. No. I saw Mostert recently. He's still in like a big cat. I mean, no. I say Kyle runs the ball 30-plus times, including Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, Juice, quick throws on third and manageable. Or if they are losing 60-40, run the ball. I don't think they can get to 40 runs without Elijah. But something they did in the last game that's interesting is just those play-action dump-offs in the flat. That's like running the ball. They won the ball. They won the game on a play-action dump-off in the flat to Ayuk, who caught the ball 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then flew from the 4 in. I mean, that's like a run.
And what about working in a few of those tiny little tosses that end up being a pass, but really it's a run? Where's that been to Ayuk all year? I feel like we saw that several times last year.
I agree. HBO is HBO. Says, as much as I want the Niners to prove me wrong, I don't think this is a championship team. If Trey was starting, then playoffs, no chip is okay. I guess what I'm saying is there's some context here. Right? If you bring all your vets back and say we're doing this to keep this Super Bowl run going, hey, man, make that Super Bowl. Otherwise, it's like, be the Bengals. Start over. Be the Bengals. But again, it was tough. You signed Trent Williams. You signed these guys. You can't all of a sudden be like, hey, Trent, Fred, we're really playing for 2023. Sorry.
Nope.
Sorry.
They tried to run
wanted to go play for the Chiefs. Yeah.
They tried to run two strategies at the same time, and that's just never a good plan.
Kyle passed on Brady because Kyle would never get the credit for winning the big game. Lego my ego. Yeah. The two big mistakes that the Niners made recently was passing on Brady and signing the wrong 6'7" defensive tackle from Oregon. Those are biggies. Yeah. And those have ramifications for years.
I would only disagree in that I truly believe Kyle would do anything to win. And so I think they just got the talent evaluation wrong. And they weren't alone. I mean, if you look at that year where Brady was leaving New England, most people were saying, well, he's probably on the decline.
They were. Most people were wrong.
Yeah, Brady likes to prove people wrong.
I'm right about most things. It's because of the jacket. It's because I shop at the outlets. You know what I'm saying?
All about the outlets.
All about the outlets. All right. Last night I'm watching the game, and boy, Patrick Mahomes was pretty uneven. He had some bad plays. He had a pick at his own goal line. He had a wide open guy on 4th and 1 and threw the ball in the dirt. Like, it was one of the worst throws I've ever seen. And on cue, you get the tweets. Imagine if Jimmy Garoppolo threw that pass. Imagine if Jimmy Garoppolo got through that interception. And those tweets were getting a lot of traction last night. And I understand the logic here is that, locally, Niner fans are so focused on their team that any little mistake Jimmy Garoppolo has is blown out of proportion. When you look at the best quarterbacks in the league, they all make mistakes. And no one, crushes Mahomes for it because he's universally regarded as a football god. So it's okay. And I think that the conclusion there is that Jimmy Garoppolo is overly scrutinized or criticized. Do you think that's the case?
Yes, I absolutely do. I was having this same thought, except it was when watching the Cardinals and Kyler Murray just really struggle. And I had to laugh to myself. I even recorded it. But in my TV room, I have surround sound, and I tend to sit near the rear left speaker. And in the NFL, sometimes that captures crowd noise, and you can occasionally hear someone really clearly. And that was the case. And there was a fan dropping a lot of expletives, a lot of F-bombs, but it was all directed at Cliff Kingsbury. There was nothing about Kyler Murray. It was, Cliff, how dare you throw a short pass with only 2 minutes left? We're down 2 scores. What are you, an idiot? And you could just hear it in the background. And it was just, I'm sure Cliff heard it too. but it was not directed at Kyler Murray. And not to say that 49ers fans would not direct their ire at Kyle Shanahan. They clearly do. But when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, it is next level. I mean, it's a hatred that is unexplainable to some point. I don't know if people are jealous of the jawline or what it is, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
How do people always go there when you criticize Jimmy Garoppolo? Every time I criticize Jimmy Garoppolo, there's someone on Twitter that's like, "You're just mad because your wife likes him." It's like, whoa! Why are you fantasizing about my wife? Fantasizing about Jimmy? That's weird.
That's odd.
Not that you did that, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's always. Hold on. Let me say why. Let me disagree with you. Allow me to retort.
Please.
Allow me to retort. Look, it's a fair point. Other quarterbacks make mistakes, but the reason that Patrick Mahomes is allowed to make those mistakes is that he makes up for them. He makes huge plays, and so if his style of play comes with, this mistake or that mistake, you'll take the whole package because he creates huge freaking plays and throws for a ton of touchdowns, and it's worth it. Jimmy doesn't. Jimmy doesn't throw a lot of touchdown passes. He doesn't have a lot of big plays. Jimmy's a game manager. I'm sorry, it's a pejorative, but he is. If he were making big plays like these other quarterbacks, he wouldn't be a game manager. But he is. And that's reflected in the fact that when he throws a pick this year, the Niners are 1-5. When he doesn't throw a pick this year, they're 6-0. So his job isn't to win the game. It isn't to make big plays. His job is not to lose the game, first and foremost. His second job is to, keep the chains moving, convert some third downs, but not at the expense of his first job, which is to not turn the freaking ball over. So that's why people get on him. It's like, dude, you have one job. You have one freaking job. Don't do that. You're allowed to. You can hand the ball to Debo. You can throw it behind the line of scrimmage to Debo. No, really, honestly, even Mahomes doesn't have the weapons that Jimmy Garoppolo has. Who has a trio like this? And that doesn't even factor in Juszczyk, Mitchell, Wilson, Jennings. I mean, who has weapons like that? Now, pass protection is no good, but if he wasn't, if he could move a little bit, he wouldn't get sacked as much as he does. So I think as someone who leads the Jimmy Garoppolo criticism bandwagon, I think we're justified.
It certainly is a level of inconsistency that would justify fans getting so upset. And even with his ability to stay on the field, right? An electric 2017 finish to the season, followed by a very boring start to 2018 and an injury that took him out. 2019, storybook season, tragic ending. 2020, mired by injury again. So even just his ability to stay on the field has been inconsistent. I do agree that he tends to be more of a game manager. He does not offer the explosive plays that you want somebody that turns it over at the rate he does.
But he's a damn good game manager, though. I'm going to say that.
He is. I mean, 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio is not bad, right?
Nope.
And he does.
He's an elite game manager.
Yes, he fits some passes into the middle of the field, into tight windows that are elite, right? That's an elite skill set. He's not an elite quarterback, but in that regard, he has an elite skill set.
Elite game manager.
And then he will break your heart out of nowhere. He will
when you ask him to do too much, when you ask too much from him, he will.
Yeah.
He will.
So I guess I understand the people who label him as inconsistent. The fans that I just can't understand are people who claim that Jimmy Garoppolo is trash. I just don't know how you justify that when he's clearly a top 20 quarterback in the NFL.
Definitely
right?
Top 20. Yes.
So in that regard, you are by definition not trash. Right. I get if you want to criticize him. I get if you want to say he's inconsistent. He is. And it's fair to talk about those things. It's just so reductionist in my belief to simplify it down to he's not good.
I agree. I agree. Okay. Fair enough. We're on the same page. Jeremy says, I love Jimmy, but I'm not stupid. He gets his running backs hurt by not throwing the ball down the field, and he gets his receivers hurt with bad ball placement. Jimmy is not equal to Mahomes. QC merch. I agree with the QC merch part. No, I agree with the whole thing.
I'm all in on that.
I just need to work smarter and start spending time doing stuff like that. T-shirts. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna work on that. Thank you. All right, here's the last thing. Just to go out on a really downer note. So I've said that Bill Walsh would love to coach Trey Lance. And I mean, my evidence is that he wanted to coach Steve Young when Steve Young's stock was down. He went to Tampa and looked bad, and Tampa was running him. They didn't want him. They had Vinny Testaverde and thought Vinny was better. That's how that went. So Steve was like, let me get that. Let me take that for you. But Bill, he never got hot and heavy for a quarterback and had to have him. Like, he got Joe Montana in the third. People forget that. From what I understand, he wanted Phil Simms in round 1. The plan was to get Phil Simms, but he had like a mid-round pick, and the Giants got him first, and that's the way it goes. So you didn't get your quarterback,
right?
And he got someone else. And then 10 years later, or whatever, 8 years later, he wanted another quarterback. He didn't trade up to number 3. He traded a second and a fourth to get someone who would have been the number 1 pick in the USFL draft and would have been the number 1 pick coming to the NFL, Steve Young. So he got bought low in both cases. So it's my contention that while Bill Walsh would love Trey Lance, he probably would have got Trey Lance at 25. I'm not sure that he would have made this move up to number 3 to get Trey Lance at 21. What do you think?
I think that that's a fair estimation based on the facts that we have available to us. But I think the one fact that you have to take into consideration that's much harder to take into consideration is what has occurred, what has transpired over those years. So we're talking about bringing Bill Walsh forward in time to a point where he could draft Trey Lance. Right. In that time frame, the draft has changed immensely. The number of trades that are occurring, the aggressiveness that teams are expressing. And so I think that you have to credit Bill Walsh for seeing value in a third round pick for Joe Montana, for seeing the value in a Steve Young and Jimmy Ray pairing that wasn't working out in Tampa Bay and being able to bring him in for less than what he was worth.
Jimmy Ray over there?
Yeah. In the interview, he talked about how Jimmy Ray was the first one who told him, "You've got what it takes in this league, kid."
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice. Always good to bring back somebody who was coaching 20 years earlier to be your offensive coordinator. So, yes, it is. To me, I think Walsh was an innovator, first and foremost. He was ahead of his time. So my prediction is you flash him forward to today's NFL, he's much more of the Sean McVay swinging for the fences type than he is being conservative, because I do think he leads in innovation. So I would anticipate that with the changes that occurred to the draft, if he felt that Trey was the answer, he would do what it took to bring him into the building.
Fair. I just remember that Bill was known for trading down. He was a trade down kind of guy. And we have no idea what Bill would do. But the next great coach, Bill Belichick, the next great Bill, did not trade up this year. I keep coming back to the Niners and Patriots being the same spot this offseason, having the same mission statement, get a new quarterback, and basically doing the exact opposite plan. The Niners are like, you got to be aggressive here. The Patriots were like, we got to not be aggressive. We have to stand pat. And what if Mac Jones had gotten picked one spot ahead of them? What would they have done? They would have been like, darn, well, I guess we'll just sign Cam and draft a quarterback in the second round and draft a quarterback next year. I mean, they would have just taken it in stride. Yeah. And maybe they're wrong, but it worked out for them. Or so far it's working out at this point.
I think that's the luxury of being a winning organization. That's the luxury of having the faith of your fan base. That's the luxury of being respected as the greatest coaching mind in the NFL, is that you can allow the draft to come to you. You can allow the year to come to you and play, knowing that you can win so many different ways, knowing that Bill Belichick is confident in his ability to win with defense, to win with complete 3 phases of the game, to find a young quarterback and maximize his skill set going into the season. I think that he just has that ability to sit back and allow everyone else to panic and then come in and reap the spoils of that. The 49ers don't have that luxury. They didn't have that luxury coming in. There's a lot of heat on that front office, and they needed to both be successful this year and show promise for the future. They were almost forced into the bad decision they made to try and win this year and develop for the future because of the fact that they can't win consistently underneath John and Kyle as of yet.
Well, here's the irony. To me, I think the Niners would be in a better spot, have a better record right now if they did what the Patriots did.
I would think so.
The Patriots are 9-4 right now with their rookie quarterback. So what the Niners could have done is just hang out at 12, not move up, take Mac Jones. start him right away. Get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, use that, put that money into the roster, have more depth in the back, in secondary, in the offensive line and stuff like that. Then you had Mac Jones for a few years. I think that's what Bill Walsh would have done. Hung out at 12, take the best quarterback available, and then in 3 years, then you can get Trey Lance. He's probably going to go to some team that doesn't know how to develop him. That's going to mess him up. Some team like, the equivalent of the late, early, mid 80s Bucks. Yeah. And then if you want to get him at that point and flip Mac Jones, you can do that. I just feel like what the Niners did puts a lot of pressure on them. It puts a lot of pressure on Lance. And when you trade a second and a fourth for Steve Young, doesn't have to work out. Now, I mean, there's some pressure, but it didn't have to work out with Joe. It didn't have to work out with Steve. It has to work out with Trey. Has to.
Yeah.
Has to.
It has to. And there are different scenarios, right? Steve was protected by the idea that he was behind a future Hall of Fame quarterback, that everyone knew it was Joe's show until it wasn't. And that provided a bit of shielding for Steve Young to be able to come in and progress at his own pace. That is just not true for Trey Lance coming in. He is the savior of the future. He is what people view as the future Joe Montana, right or wrong. Like, they're looking to him to be the answer, and that sets up with a lot of pressure. I just don't think that the 49ers front office had the luxury of sitting back and allowing those things to play out. They need to be good right now. And so they took the biggest swing that they could. And I respect taking the swing, because very quickly we'll be able to say, Grant, either they were right or they were wrong.
Unless they keep him on the bench for 3 years. It's not his time. It's not his time yet. Sean says Jimmy Garoppolo hate stems from Jimmy Garoppolo played lights out for 5 games and then got $137 million. That's the first part. It's true. It's like,
that's a lot of money.
You can get that for a good month? Damn, I had a good month one time. So that's part of it. Miss a lot of games. That's true. Super Bowl missed Sanders. Then Brady was turned down for him. That is true. Then we drafted Lance. So mistakes magnified. Yeah, that's true. It's really not his fault, other than the Sanders thing.
Right.
And that's only a fraction of it.
Yeah, the inconsistent play is definitely on him, but a lot of factors are out of his control.
Great quarterbacks tell the coach, let's go for it on 4th.
Great coaches ask quarterbacks if they want to go for it on 4th. John Harbaugh does it with, why am I blanking on his name?
Walsh also drafted the great Giovanni Carmazzi. Yeah, it's really an inexact science, which is why, to me, it's all the more reason not to trade up. Like, you don't know. The Niners just realize, hey, he's not ready. Oh, well then, would you have done this had you known that? I mean, it's a really hard position to scout, and you get it wrong a lot. So all the more reason not to trade up, man.
That's a fair strategy point to take fewer big cuts and just take more swings.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Walsh, greatest of all time, never spent a first-round pick on a quarterback. Did he? I mean, I don't think he did. I'm saying. And I'm not saying, I mean, Bill Belichick did this year, but not a high one. 15. Pretty brilliant.
Sat and let it come to him. But yes, in the comments, they are correct. Lamar Jackson is the name that was escaping me with reference to John Harbaugh.
Oh, yeah, I remember Lamar. He's a good player.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Joshua says, I don't understand Niner fans. The only way Niner fans make a run is if Jimmy gets hot. Everyone should be in his corner this year, especially Kyle. Okay.
That's a fair point that I do, regardless of who's starting. I find myself on the side of believing that 49ers fans should be supporting that individual because you're rooting for the team's success, right? I mean, you want them to win, and that's relying on Jimmy. So, yeah, I stand with that whoever's playing quarterback, I'm all in.
This team is a joke and should be disbanded after trading up. The league should kick him out of the league. The league should kick him out of the league and let Grant build a new franchise from the ground up. Grant or nothing. I'm flattered, man. Thank you. I humbly accept. Sure, if you say so. Let's do it.
It strikes me as a reasonable strategy.
I think so. I think it works. I mean, when have I ever been wrong? I said I'm mostly right. So I think that one, yeah. So.
Even when you're wrong, you typically have another take that is right about it.
That's the key. Is even when you're wrong, find a way to be somewhat right. That's right. That's what you call 4D chess. Well, that's the show. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you very much, Rob, for participating in the Schuh Show, which is your show.
Absolutely.
Participate.
Pleasure to be here. The show will continue on my channel.
That's right. If you were watching and you want to keep watching, you can continue to watch on Rob's channel. I encourage you to do so, because stop acting like you're doing anything at your place of work, because I know you're not.
It's Friday.
Yeah. He says he was joking. No. It was serious. I want it. I want the team. Let's make it happen. Thank you for your wonderful.
You're representing Grant as his agent now. You're contractually obligated after that statement.
I've never seen someone be so into me. I mean, that must be my biggest fan right there. Like, I'm flattered. Thank you. All right, everyone. I'll see you around. Falcons game. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait a second. Jamaican boy.
Jamaican boy at the buzzer.
Is Jimmy plays scared. It is not a guy. He's not like Brady, Mahomes, Russ, Allen, Burrow, Lamar to an extent. Those guys go after it. Oh, yeah. Jimmy, to me, what defines him is he is a sir, yes, sir kind of quarterback.
Yep.
Which is rare. Like, usually when you give a guy $27 million, he's like, all right, well, it's my franchise now. And Jimmy's like,
I run this show.
Like, no, it's cool. Like, we'll hand off 50 times. That's fine. I have no ego. That's kind of what's endearing about him, right? He's not a diva. He's the anti-diva.
He is the anti-diva in that respect. And I do respect the fact that he does have the memory of a goldfish. Jack Hammer wrote a great article on it recently in reference to the Ted Lasso comment. His ability to respond after he makes those boneheaded plays is pretty remarkable. He'll throw that pick and then come back and lead the charge on a key drive.
Yeah, you're right. Jimmy. Oh, I got to stop being snarky with Jimmy. I'm going to have a New Year's resolution. Be less snarky about Jimmy Garoppolo. Because it's like, it's just, I can't stop. So you ever see that Sarcastic Ball episode? So I'm just like, I just can't stop. I'm not even trying. I'm sorry. Help me, Sharon.
He seems to take it pretty well. He seems to have a pretty jovial attitude when he speaks with you.
Yeah, dude. He's a really good guy. And honestly, it's all beneath him. Like, who cares what I say about him? I mean, he's got it made.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it made at his expense, and he probably thinks it's quite amusing. It is. I mean, I think it is. Honestly,
sure he thinks
I've talked a lot of crap, and it hasn't done anything to move him out. I mean, they traded for Trey Lance, and he's like, "Nah, it's my team, baby." Oh, Kyle, what?
Still here.
It's my team, baby. I don't know what you thought was going on. They know your record without me. Don't act like Jaquaski Tart and Jimmy Ward don't know your record without me, baby. No, it ain't gonna be that easy. Comes out dressed like freaking. He looks so good after games. His style is first of all, no tie, no undershirt, just like right. It's like, man, I'm gonna do that too. It's a very confident look.
Oh,
it's very Italian. I'm a quarter
phenomenal.
Italian. I could do it. I'm a quarter Italian.
That is a classic look. Looks good on any gentleman.
Pinstripes. He's a pinstripe kind of guy too. You know what I'm saying?
Classy.
He's classy. He is. I feel like me and Jimmy Garoppolo could have a good little, radio show. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I talk crap about you for 15 years, but what about now? Like, let's talk. Jimmy be fun. He'd have to start saying stuff though. But this year, I think he knows that they're like, I don't think he cares anymore. Like, he curses a lot at his press conference. Before, he used to be the guy who was like, let me say the right thing. Now he's like, he literally doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't have to be the face of the franchise anymore because he's not.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, I guess I felt he was extremely unrelatable when he was in his mid-20s. And now that he's at 30 and he's not the face of the franchise anymore, and he lets his hair down a little bit, he's like, okay, all right, Jimmy, I like you.
Like this version.
Not as a quarterback, but as a person. No, I like him. I put up a poll the other day. What's limits the Niners more, his skill set or his contract? I think it's his contract. I think his skill set is good enough.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's his contract.
And it's the 49ers' fault for not renegotiating that contract. That doesn't fall on Jimmy.
They could have done that.
Yep.
They could have said, if they've had this, you know what, Jimmy's pretty good. What? Yeah, okay. Well, if you felt that way, renegotiate, extend him, and then draft a quarterback in round 3.
And help him.
Help him. You could have been 9-4. Anyway, this has been a great show. I like to go off on a rant at the end. That was fun. Anyway, everyone go subscribe to Rob, watch Rob, enjoy Rob, be with Rob.